This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
At 6:01, I'd like to start the February 12th, 2025 meeting with the Park and Recreation Commission. First order of business will be to approve minutes from last meeting, which was January 29th, which is quite a short time ago. Do I any discussion? Corrections? Yeah, please turn your microphones on. I'm sorry, you on here? I'm on. Any discussion, adjustments? Good to me also. Carolyn, you okay? Yeah, I got a thumbs up. Carolyn?
I'd like to make a motion to
Okay,
approve
we
the
have a
minutes
motion.
as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a second. So motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Carolyn, I see a raised hand from Carolyn. So
Aye. Aye.
okay, thank you. Minutes approved unanimously. Sorry, it's a little fast. All right, tonight, first topic is public speak. Is there anyone here? So first there is, we have a presentation tonight from the dog park. So I guess with public speak, is there anyone that has anything to say about public speak other than the dog park? Because that obviously is going to be coming up, although you're allowed to say whatever you like up there. Do I have anyone? All right, with that, I'll close public speak and I will turn over to the dog park. Bill, you're up. So John's gonna be working the screens. So all you gotta worry about is the pitch.
If he doesn't like what I'm saying, he can block me out.
You can't, well, you're stuck with us. So.
You want me to get up at the podium?
If you don't mind, yes, just so everyone can hear you, and please make sure the mic's on too, Bill. Thank you.
Great. So thank you for allowing us to make this presentation before you tonight. I think I'm going to kind of ad lib just a little bit in here, but certainly happy that we've gotten to this point where we're kind of all in at least an agreement to a particular site, and especially being located in Nonotuck Park. We thought the next big challenge was to get serious about a plan here that would illustrate the desires of the Friends of the Dog Park people, and to suit their needs for a facility like this within the town, and especially Nonotuck Park. So I have been admittedly kind of volunteering my time up to this point. Hopefully we can get through a kind of an agreement on the plan here, at least some kind of consensus on the direction. At least I still anticipate there's going to be some tweaking here, some massaging of the plan, because basically it's a concept. Admittedly, it's kind of what I would characterize as an ideal build-out scenario. It's got lots of bells and whistles on it that we thought might be worth it to at least kind of include in the plan, and kind of look at it from a pricing standpoint. So we have lots of items within our cost estimate for different elements of the park, and hopefully I can kind of hit some of the salient points of the design here, and then discuss a few issues that were brought up when I met with the Friends of the Dog Park to make the initial presentation on this particular plan. So this plan that you are looking at tonight was presented to the Friends of the Dog Park a couple of weeks ago. And I thought, from my own personal opinion, that It was very well received, and resulted in kind of a culmination of working with John Mason on some particular issues, so that he felt comfortable about how this was going to kind of fit in with the rest of the Nantucket facilities. We know that this park gets a lot of attention, shall we say, and there's a lot of things that go on with this park, and I just have to admit that I think this town is really should be kind of grateful to have this kind of a park within our boundaries in here that we can all look at and be proud of, and especially the way it's been maintained and taken care of by John and the Parks Commission here. So that as an introduction, you can take a look at on either side of the plan here. We have tried to keep within the 1.5 acre format. We felt that was an ideal size, so that it can kind of be split up between a small dog park and a large dog park. Those are kind of like the two main characteristics of the dog park. And for some reason, from design concepts and everything else, this kind of approach is worthwhile to provide the different spaces for the different sized dogs. One of the things that I worked closely with John Mason on here are setbacks, buffers, if you will, that we wanted to try to respect, so that we can maintain some of the existing vegetation on the site. And we've been able to maintain 50-foot buffers around the roadways. We had originally proposed a buffer to the south, to the parking lot where the baseball hub is, and we managed to double that distance to 100 feet. So basically 100 feet from Pavilion 3 grill shack, if you will, to the fence line. And we've been able to kind of keep off of the existing dirt road that kind of goes through the woods between Pavilion 3 and the restrooms over by the pool area of 25 feet. I was a little closer to my concept, but in talking to John about it, we were able to work it out, so we had we could enhance that buffer a little bit more. So characteristically, this site is basically wooded, but there are there's a lot of vegetation on this site that is pretty old and pretty derelict and everything else. I'll use that as a description for it. And I think it's been recognized by Derek and everything else that there some judicious pruning and thinning out would be well worth it, given the nature of the wooded area right now. But we also want to try to create, through some selective removal of trees, some open space within the idealistic fenced-in area. And you can kind of see that it's kind of a geometrical layout that runs the course around where the existing trees are kind of highlighted in the green color. Because there's nothing like having some open space in it, so the dogs can kind of run around it freely. That's the whole idea. It's going to be off leash. The open space would encourage the dogs that they can kind of run around and have some fun. It also allows some space for some elements within the park for the dogs. We call them the particular areas agility areas. where there would be some elements that the dogs could play around, whether they're bridges or mounds, that or sticks that they could kind of run in between. So those kind of elements could take place as well within the dog park. So the dog park is going to be confined with a chain link fence, and also the division between the small dog park and the large dog park would be divided with a chain link fence as well. And my feeling is that if we do it in a vinyl coated, especially kind of black, it would have a tendency of kind of receding into the woods, especially from view from the main roadways. There are some thoughts about, some additional embellishments with the fence that are kind of described on the plan, but I don't think there's any need to kind of get into that particular detail at this point. We did go through some issues with a point of entry to the dog park, and we have worked on the entry being to the north, kind of adjacent to the existing restroom facility. That would make it accessible to some parking that would be across the street in the parking lot, the paved parking lot for the pool. There's also adjacent nearby some handicap parking as well, which was originally set up for the use so that they can be used for access to the existing restrooms. This entrance area would have kind of like a double lock feature on it, where there would be one entrance that would come into a space, a vestibule space, and then there would be, you could split off and go through entries to either the large dog park area or the small dog park area. And this is kind of critical, so when people enter the vestibule space, they can unleash their dog, and they'll have a tendency to stay captured within that space first, and then they can kind of be directed by the dog owners to be led into either fenced-in area. We want to install a pet station at this entrance, which would provide water, a water source, which is very important for the dogs. And we're thinking that, at least I'm conceptualizing right now, that we can run a copper connection line over to the service line for the restrooms. So we can kind of tee off of that and extend it over to the pet station. Speaking of pet stations, there are some amenities that are illustrated on this plan here. Major amenities include sitting benches, which I could envision us kind of matching in with the benches that are used as a standard feature throughout the Nonotuck Park. Also, waste stations. Waste stations would be very important. Manufacturers can make these waste stations. They're very nice they've got the signage, they got the plastic bags, they got the waste receptacle all in kind of one unit. So they'll work out very handy in the distribution of these throughout the dog park space. A couple other attributes to the dog park that I just like to bring out. The process of kind of going through the construction and clearing and everything else, we kind of envision the space being kind of very low maintenance and probably surfaced with bark mulch or wood chips. And there is the potential for that source material coming from the very trees that we remove or take down on the site, so that we can kind of recycle them and use them as part of the park. This would be a good element to kind of keep the maintenance low within the space, rather than having grass that has a constant, maintenance issue to it and everything else. But I used a kind of an artistic technique where there may be some definition of some walking pathways, and we've kind of suggested that on the plan, that basically the pathways could circumvent the perimeters of the spaces, maybe some cross-access pathways, and where they intersect each other, which are good places where some sitting benches could be located, along with waste stations. I kind of see that, this would work in really well with what we might want to save for trees. And I have some ideas about how we could save clusters of trees, create some islands that the dogs might be able to run around and all that kind of stuff. So that particular working with a contractor and implementing those kind of things are kind of exciting to me to work on in the future. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the design in particular. However, there are two elements that I would just like to speak to directly, that was a result of some input that I've got from Friends of the Dog Park. One is that when I was talking to John Mason, we were talking about the possibility of a parking area for people that are using the dog park. We already feel that we can kind of use some parking spaces across the street at the pool, but there are some existing parking spaces about a couple hundred feet down on the roadway that are currently cordoned off. Now I have an extra sketch of that. John, did you have that sketch? Is that part something that we could show, or is?
Yeah.
Did you not?
That display too? Yeah, he has another one.
Yeah. We thought about kind of like originally in a large space, perhaps for maybe 15 cars. I estimated it out as if it was a parking area with some gravel, some excavation that would be required to install gravel and a trap rock surface on it and everything else. It would be about 15 cars that would kind of fit in the open space between the roadway and the existing woods.
Oh, Bill, not to interrupt, but I think what we're showing here, where that exists, it says existing parking for 7 cars.
Right here, yeah.
So that would be expanded out to.
Well, I want to get to a point where that was original thought when I was talking to John about it and everything else. It was felt by the Friends that the cost for that, the way I've got it estimated out, everything else, would be a bit, I'm going to use the term burdensome to the budget issues and everything else. So I gave it a little bit more thought, and it's something that I'm sure we can still kind of work on a little bit and work with John on everything else. When I took a closer look at how this space is kind of cordoned off and everything else. So right now there's a broken area where the curb is open, which is a length that can service about 7 cars to pull off and park on the roadway, and it's kind of cordoned off with a line of boulders, and you can see I've kind of sketched them out right here and everything else.
So just, if you would, just for those at home that are watching on the screen, they can't really see Bill. The area he's talking about says it's on the left-hand side of this layout saying existing parking 7 cars, and the boulders he's talking about are the circles that are in a basically like a rectangle area. Go ahead, just so people know where you're talking. Go
Very,
ahead.
very good. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. So I think there may be an alternative here where I might be able to work with John on, maybe there's a possibility we could kind of move around the boulders a little bit and maybe make that space a little bit bigger for a couple more spaces for parking. Right now, there's a couple of picnic tables that are right off on the other side of the boulders, and perhaps they could be moved to make this space a little bit bigger. But it would certainly help in terms of a budgetary situation. But I also feel that this would amount to a lot less disturbance to the site, and would be a very economical way of kind of defining the parking area. Now, we could also kind of see how the 7 cars work out in this area, and granted, they are used to kind of for the people that are renting the picnic tables. So there may be some need to kind of enlarge that a little bit. And then there already is kind of a pathway that's kind of developed along the woods there to the rest area. And then that could then take you to the entrance to the dog park area. So, we have that thought going around about the parking. The second issue was that I have shown on the plan some thoughts about improving the handicap parking spaces that you have existing on the side of the road. And the way that the handicap parking spaces exist right now is that kind of half of it is paved and the other half is kind of trap rock. And that leads into the driveway that goes by the restrooms. And I had suggested on my plan that, perhaps that should be improved a little bit so that it's all paved and it's a lot more usable by handicapped people. And to extend that to the entrance to the restroom would be kind of like a nice feature. In other words, it would kind of like formalize that accessibility point, not only to the restrooms from the handicap parking, but also to the entrance, the main entrance to the dog park. I priced it out and everything else, and there were some thoughts with the friends that perhaps that's something that if, that we feel that there's some agreement and that we want to go ahead just to kind of slightly improve that handicap parking. Oh, the other thing is that, some better signage for the handicap parking would help too, is that they could certainly discuss with the Parks Commission about, helping to pay for those improvements outside the cost of the overall cost for the general construction of the park. It's not critical for the implementation of the park per se, because it already exists, but to kind of get involved in just improving it a little bit. But perhaps there's some there's some give and take in there where the parties would be amenable to improving that a little bit. Donating some costs or whatever, however that might be able to work out. But it was one element that I showed on the plan that I thought was at least getting it on the table and, identifying it as, an element that, hey, this could be improved a little bit. So those are 2 items that I wanted to kind of just like bring forward to the commission.
Okay, John's raised his hand. Before John, I just want to point out to people again at home, the area Bill's talking about now is, if you go above where the 4 is shown on this map, you see a note where he says improve existing handicap parking. So that's the area which he's talking about at this moment, just for point of clarity.
Yes.
Okay, John, you've raised your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to expand on what Bill was talking about with the existing parking of the 7 cars. So that's where site U and T are located, and internally we've had discussions about relocating those picnic sites closer to the playground area, because since the playground area has been rebuilt and it gets a lot of use for families, we were thinking about, so when I was meeting with Bill on site, I said, well, if we move those tables out of there and relocate them, this would help create an option for additional parking in this area. So moving the boulders around, things like that would be easy and feasible. And you know, the staff and myself certainly would have no problem relocating sites U and T closer to the playground area.
Thank you, John.
So can I just bring up one more?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. Okay.
You're up, kid.
I don't want to bore you. Or anything. If we go back to the site plan,
Go back to the site plan, Jenny, please. There you go. So,
yeah, so is there any possibility of adjusting that, John, so we see a little bit more of the south end, the bottom part of it? Or is, yeah, there you go. Okay. You don't have to go up that far, but sorry.
Zoom out.
So I wanted to point out one other element that we, you know, John and I talked about. We really feel, you know, I keep on bringing John up because I want to keep him in the fold, and it's very important that you know, I get him on board with my thought process here and everything else. But when we were talking about these setbacks, these buffer areas and everything else, especially the one to the south, to Pavilion 3. He was very happy to see that we could kind of move that fence line so we were 100 feet away from the grill pit area. I had also mentioned that, you know, what we could also do is we could do a little bit of landscaping along that edge and install some evergreen hemlock trees that once they get up to 6 or 7 or 8 feet high would really kind of act as a little bit of a visual buffer. Because even with a 100-foot buffer, John was still concerned about some distraction that may occur between Pavilion 3 activity and the dog park. And so, you know, we thought that might be kind of a nice idea. And I think the Friends of the Dog Park is kind of on board with that notion. I also took some of my creative thoughts to the other side of the dog park, which is along the edge of the roadway. John, if you could kind of lower that plan just a little bit. There's a nice, good potential in there, because once we do some clearing in there, we're going to let a little bit more light down into the ground plane area, that we could introduce a few plantings between the fence and the roadway here. Dogwoods, some mountain laurel, some kind of, I call it aesthetic plantings, which I think would help out in terms of create some screening, but also at the same time be attractive, especially to, you know, the traffic along the main roadway. So those two thoughts are included on this plan as well. I think at this point I can kind of open it up to some questions, whatever you have. I think there's some other elements that, you know, may need some clarification or some discussion with the Friends of the dog park people, especially about maintenance and that kind of stuff. But, you know, I don't know if this is the forum for that right now. I think basically what we're looking for is kind of a consensus that, yeah, this plan makes sense. You know, what you're doing is all right here. So that they can kind of use it as a bona fide concept plan to use when they are trying to get some funding. So they needed the plan. I did a cost estimate for it and everything else. It's itemized a little bit. Yeah, there's some, you know, we have to go kind of back and forth on, you know, what's going to be included in the budget, what's not, and everything else. But that's all part of how the Friends of the dog park are going to have to kind of work in with funding, whatever funding they can kind of acquire for the dog park.
Is there anyone questions? We'll start here.
Yeah, Bill. So thank you for all of this, and you pretty much read my mind with your last statement at the end. Well, your next to last statement. I'm very much appreciative of seeing the increased buffer between the edge of the dog park and Pavilion 3. I think that's wonderful. Planting additional hemlocks, I think or other trees is great. Yes, we're going to be removing dead and, you know, potentially diseased trees within the park, within the dog park itself. So, you know, we're in a global climate emergency. So, you know, planting new healthy trees is a wonderful thing. My one question at this point, and this is admittedly because my dog was part German Shepherd and part kangaroo. How tall is that chain link fence?
I think
Said 6 foot. It says 5 on the plan.
yeah, I think we're doing. You know, I get this mixed up. You'll have to forgive me between this and the pickleball court. You know, fence heights and everything else. Yeah, 5 feet.
5 feet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Jeff,
so 5 feet, like right up
Okay.
in here. You know.
that's great. That's great. And John, thank you for the clarification on the 2 picnic sites. I was gonna state that, you know, obviously, you know, a need for increased parking. We need it in the park, but I do hate seeing things taken away. So, however, if the department is of the belief that moving those sites to a different spot would be beneficial for the picnickers as well as the dog park folks, let's do it. Thank you.
Anybody else? You have any other questions?
Under the fence, it also talks about a second type of fence, and I wanted clarification on where that would be.
Okay, so a little bit. I'll try to make it a long story short. So, you know,
You're not good at that, John.
some information that I've been gleaning from different scenarios and design scenarios and everything else is that, you know, sometimes if you have pathways between the small dog parks and the small dog park and a large dog park, there could be some animosity between the dogs if they're close together. And sometimes they recommend you put up a kind of like a screen fence. And so if that was a possibility and everything else, we would put one up that would go from this corner here and extend over to what we've shown as a gray block that could potentially be a gazebo, an outdoor shade structure to that point right in there. We've had some additional, so that would be a fence that's this wood slat construction, which would be like 95%, you know, opaque, so that it would be a good screen. The Friends of the Dog Park felt that, you know, we could kind of do away with that expense, so to speak, and we're just going to kind of go with probably the chain link fence, dividing the small dog park up to the big dog park.
Okay, I could, just one more, just for clarification from those, again, looking at it from home, Bill's talking about, if you look at the map that's up there, if you look at the 3 and the 5, that's basically the length of the fencing, the additional fencing that he's talking about.
Very good. Yeah. I didn't know that's what I was doing, but that's great. That's a good.
I think it was print something.
Yeah.
Any other do I have any other? Anyone else? Are you another one? Okay, go ahead.
Well, you just mentioned pricing out, and I'm just curious kind of what, I understand it might be a little bit more, a little bit less depending, but what is kind of the ballpark price that you're looking at?
Well, okay. So I just want to preface this by saying that, you know, I went through and kind of costed out soup to nuts here on all the elements, and even including a shade structure and everything else. And then the cost if we were to kind of go with this alternate construction for the parking lot, which I get the impression that we don't have to be, going that all out on that parking lot. But it was in the neighborhood of 300. And that didn't include, what I'm expecting because of these bidding processes and everything else. You've got overhead and profit margin. You've got contingencies that we usually kind of, put in there. And that would, so the overhead and profit is 10%. So you can do your math with 300,000, and then 10% for contingency and everything else. So the number was starting to get up there a little bit. And obviously that's going to be a challenge to the Friends of the Dog Park is through their funding prowess here is to kind of, see where they can come in relationship to that number. And we'll have to do our due diligence and kind of figure out where we can kind of stand with the budget, for implementation. And then there'll be this process where the Friends of the Dog Park will be hiring me to actually do contract plans and specifications that will go out to bid. And that will be handled through Mike Owens' office. And I'll be working with Mike Owens on it. I don't know if he knows or not right now, but it'll all depend on funding. And we're assuming most of it is going to come from public, a variety of public funds anyhow, which will have to go through this public bidding process.
Thank you for giving us the big.
I tried.
Scary.
Yeah.
It's better to have a big number and have it come in under than the other way around.
Well, and again, I really strongly preface this with the Friends of the Dog Park. This is soup to nuts.
Yeah.
It's like if it was Christmas time, maybe all the bells and whistles and everything else. It would be nice. Would really make a nice facility, but when we get to the funding stage and everything else, we're going to have to come down to reality about it. So that's going to be our next process here.
Anyone, is there, just to be clear though, I know we mentioned at our last meeting. So we're talking about the removal in the area of 100 trees in that area, though, correct?
Well, it depends on what you're calling trees, I guess, I suppose.
Trees and saplings.
Yeah. I mean, pick a number, right? I don't know how many numbers. We did have somebody that specializes in cutting trees down, K&T, to come in. They walked the site with us. They gave us our gut reaction as to what it might take to take down the trees, and that was itemized out. But I would say 100 trees, might be something, but that varies from this size to maybe this size or whatever and everything else. And I also want to press this when we're talking about the trees and everything else. This is something where I feel I would be working hand in hand with the contractor specifically, and Mike, and John Mason, to specifically, hand select the trees that are going to be problematic in the long term, number one, and trees that, number two, that are going to be, that could be removed, saplings, little small stuff, all the way to saving some trees, what I call signature trees. We know there are some in there, and those trees we definitely want to save, and there'll be a good potential or an asset to the park to provide shade and everything else for the dogs as well. So it'll be a little bit of an effort to kind of come through on that thing. But that, I will also add that that's going to be the thing that really kind of like makes this park up, is how we're going to do this selective clearing and, what we're going to save and what we're going to kind of enhance and everything else. So
Thank you. Is there anyone else have any questions, comments? Anyone at home? I don't see any hands. I don't see anything. So at that point, no one else has any questions. I guess in general, if I take an opinion, I know they're asking overall the general feelings of the committee. Do you want to express anything in general about the design? At this point, have any major, I don't know that we need to do, we've already approved them to put it there. We don't really need to do anything more, but at this point, I would say you get a general gist of the committee is that the design looks good to us as far as, I mean, that's really all I've got, unless he else has anything else.
Any vote?
No, we've already voted.
Yeah.
We've already voted for the.
I've already voted.
We've already voted, we already gave you the approval to put it there.
Yeah, so there was
What you got.
We get paid by the vote, Bill, so, you know,
okay.
They take it as vacation, you know?
So as long, I like the little bit of the informal basis that we're on right here. Elaine just mentioned something to me specifically. The perimeter fence that defines the overall dog space has I'm locating some double leaf gates that would provide access into each space that would be off of this gravel roadway, so that, you know, some vehicles can kind of get in there to do some maintenance and everything else. And we thought that the proximity of that roadway really lent itself to providing the access into these dog park spaces through some gates that we would provide in the fences. So that's important.
Yeah.
Because we got to have some access there for vehicles, for for maintenance and everything else.
Would they be the same double-sided, like double gate, so that, like, how are you gonna verify if nobody's gonna leave it open by accident and then people are letting their dogs in and they're gonna be running out the other side to the field? Like, is it by key or something?
Yeah, well, it'll have to be locked. And presumably the only people that will have locks will be somebody that's gonna be, you know, the maintenance people and everything else. But, yeah, it will be designed to have, a locking devices on and everything else that we could, that can be, used to keep it locked. Yeah, I know, it would be,
I'm just
you
picturing.
just
people going
created
one
a
way.
scenario where
Yeah,
somebody's gonna walk away and leave it open. Thanks a lot. You know, now I'm all worried about it. No, so that's all part of this whole thing about, you know, the maintenance and the upkeep and everything else. But that would be very important is, you know, if somebody goes in there to do some maintenance, that, you know, they lock the doors behind them, so to speak. This may be something I'll be talking to John Mason about as to how
He's got
he wants to,
John's got
He's dying to comment
yeah,
on this.
so how he wants us to work. So, you know, and those are some of the details
Schedule
we've got to
time.
kind of work out.
I just thought it was important you guys knew that there was a.
So I
Yeah,
got him,
you
but
have
I
them
don't
labeled
want
on
to interrupt. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, so it would be for maintenance, and maintenance staff would have the key. And generally with dog parks is there would be a time and a day selected, whether it's Tuesday between 9 and 10, that the dog park would be closed during that time every week, so everybody had an understanding of it. So maintenance would be able to get in there with no dogs and be able to perform, you know, whatever their general duties would have to be. And then they would close out the gates, lock them up, and then open up the dog park. So those types of things, like, you know, will be worked out later on, but that's how generally it works. So you're not worried about leaving the gate open for dogs getting out and maintenance having to worry about having dogs in there while they're weed whacking or mowing or whatever they may be doing.
Thanks, John. Okay, so with that, the only other thing I'd bring up is John has put together a maintenance plan, a proposed maintenance plan, which I'll make sure we get to you guys, for you guys to peruse and take a look at. So, John he finished the draft, and we just got the draft like Monday or Tuesday of this week. So we'll make sure you guys get a look at that, so you have an idea. He put it together just for you to review. Other than that,
I do have one question, and I don't know if John or Bill or anyone else might know this, but when you were asking about a vote, I'm wondering, does a site plan need to be approved by the commission to access some funding, like grants or anything? I just want to, yes. I don't know.
You know,
And is it at
admittedly,
this point?
I was looking for a little bit more of a formality for that reason.
Yeah, that's what I just was
Yeah.
clarifying on, because
Yeah.
I mean, I would be happy to.
I mean, it could be put in the minutes. And then if Joan gets the minutes of the meetings, that can be kind of included in their grant applications and everything else. Hey, we've got a bona fide approval, you know, everybody knows it's been presented to them, everybody's on board,
Issues.
you know, blah, 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 type of thing, you
So
know?
that will be in the minutes. Is that enough?
Well, I mean, I'll put a motion for it to approve the presented site plan.
Second. It isn't that what we already did that?
No, we
Yeah, the
approved that it
actual
could be
design. Okay.
We
in that
approved the
location.
location, but we didn't actually.
This is to get money for the actual design.
Yeah, this is for the design and the details of it and everything else, yes.
So, so I'm just gonna throw out one hypothetical. So I'm more than happy to vote on this design in favor of it tonight. Would then, and this is a process question, maybe maybe John might have the answer for this. Would then so we talked about this being like the pie in the sky
Yeah. That's
plan. Yeah. Would we then be tied to this plan if we vote in favor of it now? And then if we need to like if edits need to be made, would we have to go back to square one? I guess is the question. John, that might be for you. I'm not sure. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, to me, this has been presented as a concept plan.
Okay.
Okay, that, you know, and I kind of stated that, you know, we're gonna have to go through a funding process in here. And that's gonna have some effect on, you know, how much we can kind of put in to the scope of the work and everything else. So I don't know, something that suggests that
Pending
the
any
scope of the
budget
work, the
changes.
concept has been, you know, accepted and approved or whatever. I know you can use your own word and everything else.
Yeah, motion
So that's the
to
motion would be
approve
to
the
approve the
concept pending any budget changes for.
Well, I think typically what happens is they would use this. They have like, yes, we have approval from the park commission. We can apply for this grant. And then if they don't get the full amount that they're asking for, they would have to make changes to their plan to fit within that budget.
Well, I see it as a
Again,
process.
question about process.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I mean, if we just kind of like, you know, ran around to everybody's questions and everything else, I'd be going cuckoo about it and everything else. So I kind of see this trying to keep the concept marching forward to be used for funding. Once we get the funding, that's going to dictate kind of like a little bit of the scope of the work and everything else. And then the friends and I will kind of work out where we want to spend our funding, and that will be put into on the plans.
So
We'll be drawing up the detailed plans of it that will have whatever we can afford.
Right.
On the plans. It would go out to bid, and I do the specifications for it and everything else.
So would you be good with us putting forth a proposal this evening, saying we're and approve the initial proposed plan, but we would ask you to come back again to show us the completed whatever after you receive whatever funding you're going to see, so that we would be able to see the actual final plan?
Yeah.
Would that be-
Absolutely. I think that would
That way we
be,
cover both ends.
that would be, I think, a matter of proper protocol here.
Right.
Is that,
Okay.
you know, once we get a plan that works within the funding that we have available, you know, and all that kind of stuff, and we're saying, hey, this is a good point, because we're going to kind of go into the next phase of bidding and everything else, that we come back before the commission, kind of give you an update on where we are
That works.
with reality, so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah, and thanks, Garrett. That was a great point. Like, what's to stop us from like just voting again on a different plan? We get paid by the vote, though. I want to reiterate that. You know,
So
Yeah.
more votes the better.
Well, you know, I've been working through, and I've been volunteering my services with the friends here to kind of go through, and we've gone through, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 different sites and plans and site visits and going around about site designs and alternatives and everything else. I kind of feel strongly that I want to kind of like move forward to the next stage.
That's
here.
fine. I think we're all in agreement. So I think the discussion wise, I think we're good with it. So
So I just want to clarify, the motion was to approve the proposed site plan for the dog park, and then are we doing an amendment to that? Or is that it's clear what the understanding is? Do we want to say for the purpose of seeking,
Carolyn's got her hand up. Carolyn, what do you think?
purpose of seeking, funding?
Funding, yes, that would work.
Go ahead, Carolyn.
All right,
I think the word concept was a good one to include.
Yeah.
It's a concept plan.
with a lot of detail.
A lot of
It's
detail.
a very well-written concept.
Yeah, so I wonder even for the motion, if the additional language isn't even necessary, just that we're approving
Concept.
the concept plan, which we could later revisit. Okay, all right, so
So I made the motion.
Second.
Second. So I have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carolyn?
Aye.
And I'm going to abstain just because of my general dog park. They do a very nice job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're all set?
Or else you were all
Okay,
set.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
thanks, Bill.
Right, so with that, go into the budgets. John, you got a budget update?
Yes, we had the budget meeting with the mayor, the treasurer and Lindsay today. No concerns with the budget as presented. The mayor understood the energy cost, the needs for that, and our chlorine cost, for how much we spent on that and how much chlorine has gone up and how much the bather load and everything from last year. So there's no revisions as presented. The only thing that came through tonight was just making sure past totals were accurate, which it just came in at like 5:30 tonight to make sure. But we're in good shape as presented.
So she was okay with the extensions regarding like the chlorine and things along that area? The extra-
Yeah, no concerns because they said level budget and what we're actually expended. We're going to be level or a little bit of increase, from what was actually expended in chlorine last year. So it is.
It's considered like,
So yeah, it's a realistic number, and and our budget, as she says, is not one of the bigger ones. So when there's times where we need to add 3,000 or 4,000 for much needed things, that's not a big deal breaker. The other thing though that did come out of that is we've always had the rail trail money earmarked into our budget. That is moving to DPW. So the only thing was the 27.5, I believe, $2,750 for this coming year will be removed from our budget, and it'll be moved to the DPWs because there's a long long-term strategy over the next 1 to 5 years to take the rail trail committee completely out of it. They're all going to be retiring and moving, combining resources between DPW, maybe us, and some others or outsourcing to maintain that area. So,
any other questions on budgets? Anyone? No one calling? Okay, somebody dropped. All right. So with that, we'll move on to policies and fees. And John, just for clarification at the beginning of this discussion, we have none of these, just looking at these fees are the same as last year. We have not increased anything, correct?
No, we didn't recommend any because of how well we did last year. How I think it goes to speak of how nice and affordable our park is. So we did not recommend. That's not to say that if you guys want to add fees, increase fees anywhere, it can certainly be done. We start taking reservations March 3rd for pavilions. So this is a good one to know if there's any thought about increasing any type of fees for next year.
So I don't know how we can do it a couple different ways. We can go down through each park. Basically start with Nonotuck and work our way through, or unless someone, I guess probably that's the best way to do it. Anyone have any questions about the Nonotuck Park field usage policy and fees 2025? Questions, concerns?
So the only thing the only reason that's in there is because we added that you must be in good standing from the previous year to be a renter for next year. We have a few groups that historically have been ignoring our invoices regarding field usage. So that's why that is in there, that new policy, and it's in there for Millside and Nonotuck, just to make sure that, you know, if you do have an outstanding invoice, that the policy says that you have to pay before you can, you know, rent the following year.
Okay, and I noticed, I think, John, and correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, it's basically been added to all of these, correct?
That line's been added to those, yes. Yep. And that's the only changes we made on policies for this upcoming year.
So the other next document would be the park and reaction space for rentals, Nonotuck Park. Any questions?
Wait, can you slow down for a second?
Okay.
So which one did you just talk about?
Nonotuck Park field usage policy and fees 2025. It's at the top of the,
Okay, can we talk about that one last, actually, because I do have questions about that.
Okay.
We started.
do that one. We can move that one. So park and recreation space for rentals, Nonotuck Park. Any questions, concerns? So, okay. Then without any questions, I see nothing, okay?
That one you mentioned is the same, you just added the renters must be in good standing.
Yeah, the only thing,
The changes
Yep.
are-
anything that
Okay.
would have been changed would be highlighted.
Okay.
So then next one would be the park and recreation space for rentals from Millside. And that Millside also includes, what am I thinking?
Renters must be in good standing from previous rental.
But, it's not just Millside Park, it's also,
At the bottom of each.
Pulaski, right?
It's no, we don't really get any from them. It was Millside and Nonotuck Park pavilions.
The big two ones, okay.
Yeah.
So with that, any questions on the mill side? All right, and then behind that is the one with basically has the park and recreation fees, which
Yep.
details the vehicle passes, picnic sites, pavilions, gazebo, and pretty much community pool, mill side. Any questions on that form? Again, nothing's changed from last year. Only thing is the added of the rentals in good standing to try to keep people who are causing issues out.
I don't see it on here, and I'm wondering if it's maybe on the website or somewhere else, but where can you see like when you're allowed to start renting picnic tables and pavilions? Like when's the first day they're available? When's the last day?
We start taking the first Monday in March.
Yeah, it says reservations will be taken beginning the first Monday of March.
Right, but you can't rent a picnic table for March 1st. You can begin asking.
Yeah. So it's after the park is open.
So April,
The official opening date is the Monday after Patriots Day. Yeah, whatever that is.
and the last day to rent is.
Columbus Day weekend.
Can we add that to the Parks and Rec fees? Just the page, just to be clear.
So I would only point to clarify that would be the opening date is sometimes a little bit flexible, right? Closing date's pretty firm. But the
opening date's same. It's the first Monday after Patriots Day is the official park opening. And then.
Yeah, so I think just a sentence that can be updated every year with the exact dates of when the park is open to when the park closes would be great to add to this.
But it's not when the park is open, it's when rentals are available. Like the park does open that day, but the park is open past Columbus Day.
Yeah, so with that, where it says reservations will be taken.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, where it says reservations will be taken being the first Monday in March. After that, we can put in there rentals are available from
April
whatever date to whatever date.
Whatever, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Sam can add that.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for that clarification.
Yeah, and what, can I ask why you can't rent it past Columbus Day if the park is still open?
They start winterizing all the tables, grills. So we cover the grills, we pack up the tables, we store them on top of each other. So before the season comes quick on the end, so they start getting all that stuff taken care of.
Thank you.
All right. With that, that's all that. Now we're gonna go back to the original, which is the field usage policy and fees 2025 Nantucket Park. Questions?
Yeah, I think I was very confused by this one. I guess I'm not clear what adult leagues or youth leagues are using the fields other than EYSA and Little League. And then I was confused why Little League and high school is mentioned here, but not EYSA for soccer and not pickleball. So I'm unclear why there's like specifications for field maintenance for some things that are happening in the park and why not for others? And if it makes sense to create something that has clear guidelines for all of the teams that are using the fields. And then also if you could give me an example of like what adult leagues are being paid that like what adult leagues are happening.
So like the over 30 baseball league.
Over 30 baseball and then Quab and Valley on Sundays. They use the big diamonds.
And I think, John, correct me if I'm wrong, I think just part of that is because why their fee is a little bit higher is a great number of those folks who play in those leagues aren't Easthampton residents. So to reflect that,
Yeah.
we'll give a break to the
No
Easthampton
question
League.
about the fee, just like who, like.
Yeah.
I was not aware that people from out of town were using our fields. And it seems like maybe it's just for baseball that's happening. I don't know of any adult soccer that's happening or any other.
It's just baseball. So there's actually, even like with the over 30 and then the Quab and Valley, there's town teams like Easthampton Savings Bank is the sponsor for the over 30. But they get players from all over, but they're sponsored by the local bank. So, but yeah, we defer to, like, for say the soccer field area, we defer to soccer on that area with how much use it gets. We try to limit, and same with the adult league. We try to limit the number of games that they can use the field for because of the wear and tear and how much, and that's why there's some of these rentals have 3-hour maximums because, they would come into the park and been known to come in at, 8 o'clock for a 1 o'clock game, take batting practice, goof around, then, be on the field all day. So we had to kind of limit and put some structure on the times.
And what column or category do the fees that you take in from all these things, like where was that in the, I don't have my packet from last month in front of me, but
that's park leagues. That's park leagues.
Park leagues.
Yeah.
And that was on the expense sheet last month?
That was on that sheet, yeah.
I'm wondering if, like, moving forward, if it makes sense to include soccer and pickleball, just to have like more consistency about the different types of things that are happening. And I guess it's a larger conversation now that we're talking about having a rec coordinator position. And maybe that makes more sense to wait until after that. But I think, the soccer fields don't get used on Sundays. And so if like once a season we wanted to, let them have a Sunday tournament, that it should be included in a policy. So it's clear what the fee is. And
yeah, we can, like I said, I like to defer to the soccer board on those types of things because they put a lot of money into the fields. So we, it's always high school first, and then youth Easthampton Youth Soccer Association. So kind of give them the leeway of determining if folks. We keep that varsity field shut down outside of the season. Keep that well maintained for the high school. So there's a balance of trying to add some things in there, but also the wear and tear that it takes. As far as like pickleball, that's definitely something we could talk about adding into, especially when we get to the new courts added in. So that would be something we can look at. And even this, like our policies, if we want to make some changes or have some discussions even for this year, there's no reason not to change them if they need to be. We've done this in the past for some loopholes of things that have kind of come up. So you revisit these things. So
Thank you.
Any other discussions on policies and fees? So I believe Carolyn, go ahead.
I don't want to open up a can of worms, but by the same token, I think at some point it might be nice to sort of get on a spreadsheet a better understanding, because I can't wrap my head around it. I've been involved in all of these sports on the youth side, but it feels like, as you referenced, John, like all of these different organizations have put a lot of money towards either building or maintaining or, continuing to build out the facilities, and then the maintenance of all of them. But it would be nice as a commissioner to have sort of an understanding of what the level, like kind of a level set of like what is the park doing? What is the group, a sponsoring group doing for all of the different facility or fields of the different types, including pickleball, soccer, baseball, basketball, if those tennis, like, you know what I'm saying? I don't think it's just me. I've had conversations with other people as well. It just feels like there's a lot of history, and to understand where the history meets current day from both a funding and it's just like what the layout of it all is. Am I making any sense? Feel free, anybody, to jump into the conversation.
You are making sense, actually.
So like I can't tell you how much they spend on the fields in maintenance as their youth organizations, but our responsibility is to provide maintenance, mowing, upkeep for our facilities. When we get to springtime and we need clay for one of the softball fields, I'll reach out to Little League and say, what, we need clay on this field. Can you guys afford to pay for that? And they'll come back with, yeah, we have X amount of dollars that we can do that. They get the bill, it goes to them, but we perform all the work to spread it, take care of it, stamp it down, do all those types of things. And soccer's done the same thing, where we brought us, we have the spreader. If they want something seeded, they pay for the seed. We go pick it up and we put it and we take care of seeding the areas for them, things like that. So but as far as like what they do financially,
I think my question is less to do with financial, although that is part of the conversation, but also just, for example, lining fields. Does Parks and Rec line soccer fields, or does Parks and Rec line baseball fields? For me personally, the pickleball using a bathroom that is nearby the pickleball, and I was involved with soccer at the time that soccer building got built. And I understand that there were funds used by the soccer, but also to your point, the Parks and Rec Commission was very much financially and action oriented involved in the building of that building. So there's a lot of like nuance that it would be nice to understand as a commissioner, because there are a lot of conversations that come up about all of these things. And I don't know how to do it in a way. I say spreadsheet only, or like a graph, because I mean, it's a lot, there's a lot of nuance, I'll just say again, of what you know, but to try to explain that to other people or to parents or, you know, just community members, it's difficult when you don't really, when it's not clear, you know, who's doing what and the why behind it. I mean, I think the why behind it is just being fiscally responsible and having a really great engaged community who want to help provide for the community and the park. So anyway, it's maybe another topic for another time, but it does come up like when we look at this about fees and, you know, different fees for different organizations and why they might be different.
Okay.
My understanding, no city-run youth sport, I feel, has a fee, right, to use the park? Is that kind of what this is explaining in a way?
Yes, yeah. So anything that's sponsored,
Sponsored.
UISA, high school, all that, no fees associated with Little League or anything like that. No, we provide the maintenance for those areas.
So, sorry, so this is just me thinking out loud also. So I'm wondering if, so rather than, because creating this document, creating this spreadsheet all in one haul is kind of a heavy lift. So I'm wondering if like throughout the course of the next year, we say, you know, in March, here's what's going on at the park. Here are the organizations that are using the park, and who is responsible for what. And so not getting down into like drilling down into really micromanaging as far as like money goes, but just like a general guide to, okay, so here's what to expect. It's June. Here's what generally goes on. We have picnics. We have baseball. We maybe have wiffle ball. The pool opens at the end of June, etc. So I wonder if like that's something. And I'd be happy, John. You know, I'd be happy to contribute to that. You know, with Sam throughout the course of the next year. For example, I'm spitballing. I think Carolyn raises some really good points, but also, you know, this would be a great document to have, but also it would be, to do it all in one shot, I feel like would be a little bit of a drain of kind of resources that are already stretched kind of thing. So I'd be happy to volunteer. And if we do it in increments throughout the year, I think it's just a much easier thing to accomplish.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think some of it too has already been collected for our little kind of project that we have going on for the rec coordinator, like soccer. We've reached out to programs to ask what their expenses are. So we do have some of it, like you said, to kind of compile all together. But that definitely has always been the question as to what is going on in the park, who's paying for what and who's doing what. And if there are funds that out there to help you with some of the maintenance, then maybe people need to contribute to that. And obviously the soccer shed is one of them, because obviously it is the closest bathroom. And there's been a lot of discussions of, you know, if who's paying for all the maintenance and the toilet paper and the winterizing and water. And if there's a loss, it's all falling on soccer. But obviously if pickleball is there, then can we partner with them in some way? Or does that entire building get handed over to the city instead of being soccer's responsibility to maintain, and then fight that battle of, sorry, you can't use our bathrooms because there are bathrooms and not your bathrooms.
Or we're paying for it with fees and there's no financial contribution. Not saying that they wouldn't financially contribute, but like it is a good point of who is doing what and why.
Yes.
Is like the larger question. And it sounds like not a bad idea to break it down and think about like what is going on at the park right now. And then it's like, okay, what is the park staff doing to support that programming, or what's happening there? Mm-hmm. And then what other organizations are also contributing at that point? And I agree with Carolyn. I think it's less about the money, and more about who's doing what. And I think it's naturally fallen out the way it is because the park staff can only do so much because there are X amount of employees with X amount of hours, and there's only so much they can do in that time. And I think that helps with our longer term thinking of like, if we're going to expand on park services, we also need to expand on park staff. And so I think having that would help legitimize the proposal for that to happen.
Yeah, and the programs help the park as much as the park helps the programs.
Okay, Carolyn, you're up again.
I think just adding to the conversation, I think there's so much institutional knowledge, John, that you hold and just trying to have an understanding of that. I know, and I definitely do not want to add to your workload. I'm not asking for you to create a document. It's more just, I wish I had a better understanding and that people, just anybody could have that understanding, but I'm certainly not suggesting that it's something that you need to do right now. I think that to your point, either Desiree or Kira, the conversations around the coordinator position are sort of part. I mean, these conversations have been going on, or questions have been going on in my mind since I joined the commission and before that. But in talking about the coordinator position, it definitely brings up, again, just a lot of questions more than anything. And it's knowledge you have that it's not written down anywhere, because it's in your head and you just make it work, and you do lots with less.
I have a if I die manual in my office. I seriously do. I have so much stuff laid out that if I didn't make it into the office, someone can kind of pick up and take off from where I left off.
Oh my goodness, that's got to be a big book.
And I did it during COVID, during the COVID years. For when I was looking for a lot of stuff to do. So. Yes, I do have to update it just in case. That was my meeting tonight, earlier. So yeah, that's something that we can work on, and like Kira and Desiree said, as the rec coordinator position is evolving, we can look at that as well, and kind of get a sense of laying that stuff out. Sure.
So to me, that's part of the whole discussion when something gets put in the park, that people will basically promise whatever, or there'll be agreements made between the commission. That's why I like the document we're talking about with the dog park is important, because the original people that come before the board, and then you go 15 years and you have a whole nother board on there and they're going, why am I having to do this? And why am I doing that? And why
exactly why the memorandum of understanding with the dog park and
Tad, we're level funded. We're going to need your help for this. And everybody's like, yeah, sure. Until that group turns over. I mean, you're talking kind of the rail trail is a good example of that also. The people those people have been, God bless them. Whoever signed up for that duty has been working at it for a long time,
Yeah. And so, to that point, as we work through the year, we can start looking at for all, the leagues or the fields or whatever, have an understanding with pickleball, youth soccer, high school, whatever it is, and start putting all those documents together, that like similar to what the dog park looks like. So there is an understanding of what we're doing, and what we're required to do and what we ask of leagues.
Okay. Any other discussion on that subject? Okay, with that, I believe, John, we have to make a motion, correct, to accept current fees?
Yes.
So I would ask, I guess, since we've been through them all, we haven't done any amendments. I just asked for a general motion to accept the fee.
The dates are just going to be on another document, correct?
Yeah, but that's not with the fees. So the fees are the same, but I have a note to add the dates of.
As amended, yes, I'm sorry, as amended for the
That doesn't
park fees.
change any.
Correct. Fees are good
Put a motion then to accept the fees presented ahead of us.
with a lot as amended. I'll second.
Policy and fees document.
Yep.
Fees document.
Thank you. I got a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, good.
Who seconded?
I did.
Thank you.
I'm going to stick with just saying.
No, you're good. So, all right, now we'll move on to the Park and Rec Subcommittee. I know there was a draft released, everyone. Nice job with that, by the way. Any questions, discussion? Well, I guess any general discussion about the document?
I think it looks great. I mean, I think it's completely straightforward. I think it seems to from my perception, it seems to fall in line with, it's consistent with, rules and regulations around other city, committees, et cetera. So.
Tried to keep
Yeah,
it.
did a nice job.
Yep.
We did. Anybody else, anything? So I guess at this point, no one's looking for any kind of changes, everything looks good.
There were just things that I left not incomplete.
Oh, we did have to clarify, yeah.
You have to clarify something, okay?
In section 8, copies of the previous meeting minutes shall be distributed to all commission members before the next scheduled meeting. Once approved, a copy of the minutes shall be forwarded to, I just didn't know what is the actual process. Who sends the approved minutes, or what do you do once we approve the minutes? I'll be more general. I made an assumption about roles, but what is the procedure?
I usually send them along, but not usually within 48 hours. I usually try to remember to send them along. So if someone else wants to take that responsibility and have a timeline over their head of 48 hours, I'd be glad to shift that to whoever would like that, because truthfully, I'm not always good with that.
So the question is, where are you, just for clarity?
Thank you.
Yeah, I beat you to it. Where are we sending? Where do they get sent?
It gets sent to the city clerk's office, agendas.
I would suggest that the secretary does it, because they're the ones who would, especially if there's an amendment, they would change that. And then
I would agree.
the city
I
clerk.
would agree that would be part of the responsibility.
Forward on to the city clerk.
Any other discussion with that? And that
I think it's.
sounds like a logical. Carolyn's okay. Carolyn's not on her way, so we're good.
And then the second one is about the meeting recordings. What happens after the meeting with meeting recordings?
So they get sent to IT automatically.
Okay.
So it's up to IT after that. And the way I have it set up now is because we had in some meetings that were in my Google Drive and they didn't post them, whatever. Now the way it's set up is I asked for a Google Meets from the IT department. They provide that with me, and it automatically has a recording feature with it, and it automatically goes to them after the meeting's over.
Great.
So instead of me creating a Google Meets now, I have the city create it, and it goes to them. Now, when it gets posted or whatever they do with it is on their time. I can't control their workload. I know IT. I can't say enough about how great IT is for our city. They're wonderful up there. They're truly amazing people. That's just my little plug for them.
And, excuse me, and of course, I have one tiny nitpick typo. Sorry.
No, please.
Section 2, officers, paragraph 3, in the event of a vacancy in any officership. That's
Please.
yeah. Okay, thanks.
So with that, any other questions, feedback? So I think at this point, we can make a motion to approve those regulations as amended.
I'll make that
Do
motion.
that? I think we are, since there's no other concerns or questions. I know it's
The
just
only thought I
us.
had was,
Let us,
Fishra and Brian haven't had a chance
We'll take it
to
down.
share, and I just feel like since
okay, yeah,
it's
that's
a
fine.
document, the current commission will start following.
Then we would ask that we kick this down the road to March.
Okay.
It'd be really, John, please, we'll have that as part of the agenda for a March meeting also.
Yep, I'll leave it on there.
Thank you. Any other, okay, we're good there. Everyone's in agreement with that. So we're gonna move on to park facilities, John.
Sure thing. Maintenance building update, really done in the last 2 weeks since we met last. They have cleared out 95% of the maintenance building. There is some stuff left behind, but with the weather conditions, the snow, the ice, it's the 1 year we get a winter that's actually a New England winter is putting us behind the 8 ball on some things for that project. So, and I have not seen anything from EDM Studios yet regarding feedback from their design work and information they're going to provide. Pickleball expansion, I have a meeting with Mike Owens on Tuesday, the 18th. I've sent him the previous bid docs. I've sent him Bill Cannon's information.
Hey,
I've
John?
gone, yes, sorry.
I'm sorry. I've heard the name Mike Owens mentioned like a half dozen times tonight. Who is that?
Procurement officer.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
So all bids and bid work has to go through that office. He is actually the one signing off on it.
Got it. Thank you.
Signing off on the workload and signing off on that. So, and he's actually our acting treasurer as well.
Okay.
So he's during budget season, it's kind of crazy for him. So I did get a lot of information out. I went through last time's bid, and I have some amendments that were done to it. And then there was quite a few references to other projects other than pickleball in it. So I have to take a deep dive into it tomorrow, and take out some of the language that has nothing to do with pickleball that's in the bid. I don't think you guys want to backstop, 30-foot backstop at pickleball. So things like that are still in the pickleball document that got slid through last time. So there's some things I have to do for that. So anyways, we're looking for bid doc to go out beginning of March, first week of March, bid closed by April 1st. Contract sent out. We want a completion date by August 1st, is going to be in the bid doc itself. We're looking at a 90-day turnaround from the time we award. Everything's dotted, crossed, everything's good to go. You have 90 days to commence work and complete it. So that'll be in there too. So that's the timing on that. Postcards for any questions about pickleball? I've talked to Carolyn.
You said looking for the bid docs to go out at the beginning of March, closing the bid April 1st.
Roughly, these aren't hardcore dates yet because after Tuesday's meeting, we'll start actually plugging in the dates. But that's roughly what we're looking at, yes.
And then you said an ending of August?
August 1st, our goal is to have, in the bid docs, to have the construction completed within 90 days after bid acceptance and contracts are signed, which would roughly, if all goes well, you're looking at everything tied up by May 1st, May, June, July. All of May, all June, all July for construction and completion.
And that is based on that 90-day completion, John. It's based on the fact that the other two courts were able to be done in 90 days? Or you're already, because we got the area kind of already laid out, it's going to be easier?
It's an easier job, but it's one of those things where we put it in there because you don't want to give them 150 days because then they're going to look at it the fall.
Well, I get you. You want to put
so
I get it.
The talking with Mike in our preliminary meeting, 90 days for a project like this is very reasonable to ask a contractor to do. So it was built within 90 days last time. Once they get started and rolling on it, they can turn it around, and if they really try, a month, soup to nuts. So
Good. They don't want to irritate all those people that carry those paddles around. They're not going to get that. Screw up.
Making sure they're not harassing the workers while they're getting it done.
Anything else on pickleball? All right. Park entrance, field, John.
Yep. So the postcards I've been working with planning, and a big thank you to the planning department for helping me with the postcards and the announcements. The postcards should be going out at the end of the week. There's 151, I believe, is the number that is going to the surrounding neighborhoods. And then it'll also get posted in the paper regarding this meeting. It'll be posted in city website, I'm not sure, the previous chair of this committee was going to be active on putting it on that social network, but Salem has taken over that spot. So I'm not sure how much Facebook notification will be out there, but we're gonna do as much as we can to notify folks outside of the neighborhood of the public hearing, and it's scheduled for 6:15 on March 5th. City engineers are still know when we get nicer weather, they're going to come out and design that area for moving the toll booth in, and the motion itself, or the information, will be that in sometime in 2026, this will go in effect after construction and the entrance is redone. So it will be done for folks to plan on next year. There will be if it goes through, there will be a reversal of direction. There has to be, there's a city ordinance that has to be changed for a one-way street. So that's why it's in a public hearing with city council to change a city ordinance on a one-way street. And then I have the verbiage from DPW, send me the verbiage to put in for the motion if it does get passed.
And quick question on that, where is that funding in theory coming from?
For the entrance?
Yeah.
It's not going to be much at all. A lot of work's going to be able to get done in-house. I'll see if there's when I get a cost estimate and see what can be done in-house and what can't, we'll look at it, but it's going to be short money for sure.
When you say in-house, you mean DPW, or do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say in DPW, yeah. DPW has a small paver, but once again, I don't like promising resources that are not mine, that are in other departments within the cities.
And I just wondered in general where we're coming from. Okay.
But they will be getting the ask.
It's basically going to be an in-house project in city.
That's what we're hoping for. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions about the entrance?
I'm just wondering, for the public hearing, how does that go? Are you gonna give a little presentation first?
Yes. Yeah. So I'll put it together similar to the packet that the public safety. I will speak on the benefits of it. Have the design, that little sketch that we had made up. So yeah, I will be at the public hearing to present on behalf.
And that will be where, John? I'm sorry if you said it. I missed
City
it.
Council. So it's a regular City Council public hearing, City Council chambers, right where you guys are, at 6:15 on March 5th.
Okay.
And is this something that it would be helpful to have a park commissioner at, or available for questions? Should
Yep.
we talk amongst ourselves?
Yep.
Do you all there? Should we just talk about who would want to represent that? What would
Whoever wants to show up online or in person and speak on behalf of it, by all means, that would be welcome for sure. I think we all agree this is a worthwhile project for safety and so many other reasons. But I think there's going to be some pushback from some of the neighborhood folks, from what I've gathered, secondhand from some people. So we'll see.
Go ahead, Carolyn.
Can you share what you are thinking the barriers will be for those people?
How fast people are going to come into the park. And I said, it's the same. They do the same rate of speed as they leave the park, as they drive through the park. I said, it doesn't change the traffic of how many people come into the park or leave the park, or their speeds of the park. But that was they're going to be racing down my street because they're late to get to soccer, and they're going to be speeding through. I'm like, you know what? I watch everybody leave, and I watch the high school leave at 2:00, and it's a raceway at 2:00. It doesn't change. The high school, that's the same way they leave the high school every day, and they come through the park as well. You can hear them revving up. Not all kids, but there's a handful that they're hitting some numbers as they're coming through.
I'd argue driving into the park the new way will be safer with the sun setting in your eyes as kids are playing on the field and crossing. You don't have
True.
that glare coming over the Williston as it's setting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, it's right. It makes so much sense on so many levels.
Any,
But-
Like,
we're going to be good neighbors, and we'll hear from them.
Is anyone planning on going to that?
I am definitely planning on going. I went to the last one that he kind of broke the news to them of what we wanted to do. It is during playoffs, so as long as I'm not actively coaching, I will be present. If I am coaching, I'll probably have an earbud in. So you're screaming in the background, just ignore it. I already have it on my calendar from the last time we spoke, so. Obviously, I do think the more meetings that you have regarding the park, the more of us that can attend is probably good for you as well, just so that the city sees like the entire park commission is backing John in his decision, so I don't think it would hurt if people are just home, calling in, so people see your names.
I'm giving a talk at Arizona State that night, so.
What?
Oh, I heard. That's right.
Like at the school or on the?
Yeah.
We'll talk after.
Yeah, I'll be in Tempe, so.
Cool.
any other discussion on the park entrance?
All good things.
All good? All good? All right, Johnny, new city?
New city, nothing new. We had a meeting today, and actually, KMDG was not there because they're working on the input from everyone regarding the plans. So nothing new. Main Street, nothing new to report on that. Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, the historical review for the cemeteries. I got the 64-page document late last night regarding it's 14. It's going to be 14,500 that I'm going to be looking to get from CPA, but turning back the other money. So trying to get CPA with a net gain out of the historical. So that would be the 14.5 I'll be looking for that historical review for those. But it's quite a large document that they sent me, and I will be perusing it when I have leisure time.
So clarification, you're going to be using 14,500 of the CPA money for?
I will not be using it until I meet with CPA to say, okay, of the stone house and historical dollars, we have, I think it's 39,000. I'm not sure what the exact number is that we still have with them. And I told them I would investigate what it's going to cost to move forward on historical and then get back to them to let them know how much I can turn back. So I will be making a request to pursue the historical designation as presented by Pioneer Valley for 14.5, and whatever the balance is of the, I think it's 39,000. I would give that back. Say we don't need that. We only need 14.5 of it. But I will be making a request to CPA on that.
Okay.
I won't spend anything until CPA approves it.
But what is the 14,500 to pay for?
That's for them to go for the National Historical Registry for the cemetery, and then to resubmit the comfort station on Daly Field, just the comfort station, not Daly Field as a whole, but just the comfort station.
So you have to pay for the process to see.
The process, the permit, and all that stuff. Yeah. So they take care of submitting the pictures, the documentation, everything that's required. They take care of it all. And then if we get approved, then we get National Registry designation.
Any other questions on that? Good there. Any old and continuing business? Anyone have anything old and continuing business discussion?
Just to go back, sorry, I'm catching up with the notes. And so are you going to CPA this month to do that, or is that a later?
I just got it last night, and it's 64 pages. As I review it and go through it, and I'm not going to go to CPA until I'm prepared of what I'm presenting them. So it would probably be in March because they have timing of when they want stuff submitted, much like us. So I would feel like I will be submitting that in March.
And I think Next CPA meeting is the 27th of February, I think, John.
Is it?
Off the top of my head, I could be wrong. I know it's been moved around a little bit.
Yeah, I'll check in on that and see if I can turn it around. My plan was probably looking at March. I don't think another month of our cemetery getting older or our comfort station getting older is going to hurt the process.
Yeah, the 20, I think it's the 20.
I think it's only going to help it. It's another month older. It's
Yeah,
more
right.
historical than it was the night before.
Okay, with that, you okay, Kara? We good? All right, anybody else? We'll try one more time. I'll be continuing. We got anything? Okay, we don't have anything, so I got a couple of things left. Next meeting, I'm assuming, March 12th. That would be the second Wednesday of March, 6 PM. Are we okay with that, committee wise? Okay, we're good with that.
I have city council chambers booked already for that day. So I already
We're
I
good
checked with
there.
Barb.
That will, and then that meeting will be all set for elections. Okay, with that, before we adjourn, I got one little thing I gotta do here. Before we end tonight's meeting, I would like to share something with the commission. This will be my last meeting. I will be resigning effective this evening. I would like to think of my time on this commission as well spent. If you look at any successful company or department, it's usually about the people, and the Park and Recreation is no exception. We have some great people working in this department. This commission has always tried to put the park and its people first when making decisions. Even when those decisions were not very popular with the public, I asked the commission to consider when making future decisions to think of your job, the job you do every day. And imagine you have a group of people who visit once a month, and these people have the power to make decisions about your job, even though most of them have never met you or know what you do. It's kind of an uncomfortable situation. I can say that I am leaving the way I came in, with no ties to any political agenda or special interest. I would especially like to thank Sam and John, our office army of two. Also the commissioners that have come here before me. Your support and guidance have been greatly appreciated. And for the record, I would like to say John Mason takes a lot of unjust criticism. I put his park record against any city agency. Thank you all, and the best of luck to you. And with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn. So moved. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Carol, you good?
Aye.
Yep, thank you. All right, kids. Thank you.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.